thankful to have Pamela, a wonderful musician, joining us tonight, a singer, a songwriter, spiritual teacher, and amateur genealogist. She's ordained with the International Metaphysical Ministry, which I hope she touches on a little bit in her presentation, or at least the conversation tonight after the conclusion of her talk. She is, after serving as an educator over 35 years of her career, and she's also earned a doctorate from the University of Sedona. She resides in South Haven with her husband, Pete, and Pamela is having a wonderful presentation of inspiration, creativity, and spirit she will touch on tonight, and we look forward to that and her lighthearted, wonderful presentations that she does bring us. Coptic Moments by her partner, her guy, Pete, will present that right now, and as a prelude with the Master Ahmed Bay's teachings. So, Pete, take it away with the Coptic Moments, and we'll bring in Pamela in just a few short moments.
You have to introduce it, honey.
Oh, this is the first chapter of the audiobook I wrote. Fred Sell is a voiceover guy.
Ahmed Bay, Chapter 1. His name was Ahmed Bay. He became one of the greatest metaphysical writers and lecturers of the 20th century. Ahmed Bay was trained in the Egyptian Mystery School, as did Jesus the Christ earlier. It was there, in that mystical school, that Ahmed Bay learned the art of suspended animation that enabled him to control his physical body with mind power, a power that is available to everyone. Jesus the Christ availed himself of this power when he was crucified. Jesus could control his heartbeat, the blood flow to his organs, and bodily functions, so that he would appear dead. But he was not physically dead, simply in a state of suspended animation. Ahmed Bay utilized this same power throughout his earthly life. That is why he was able to be buried over 5,000 times in an airtight coffin and come out breathing, just as you and I breathe today. But let us go back in time. The place? Cairo, Egypt. Young boys are playing a hotly contested game of football. Better known in the West is soccer. There we see a young lad, Ahmed, kicking the ball with a mighty grunt. The ball rolls down the dusty Cairo street and stops at the feet of a man wearing white robe garments and a headdress. In time, this striking man would become a mentor to Ahmed at the Egyptian Mystery School. He picks up the ball and looks into Ahmed's eyes for just an instant before he realizes he has just witnessed a great mystical moment. Ahmed would describe this moment years later. It seemed like a great and wonderful event was just about to happen, that something momentous and of lasting value was imminent. I looked up into his face, and the impression increased, mounting to where it seemed great sages of time were rolling up into 1 minute. The turban man then smiles and speaks. "Oh, this ball must be yours, sir." "Of course it is." He hands the ball back to little Ahmed, who looks up at him. The man is tall and sports a full goatee. Ahmed pulls on the man's garments. "Do you live in our neighborhood?" "I only recently moved here." "Would you come past my house again?" "Yes, I promise." After a moment, Ahmed smiles, and then rushes back to his game of soccer with the other young boys. In a few minutes, he hears his mother calling him. "Ahmed, Ahmed, time for dinner, son." The little 5-year-old Ahmed runs back to his home as fast as his legs will go in anticipation of a great dinner. As he rushes into the front door, his mother and father gaze at him lovingly. They turn to go inside. The Egyptian man dressed in the white robes approaches the couple and bows graciously. "Am I honored to be speaking with the parents of the little boy who just ran into your home?" Ahmed's father addresses him with great respect. "Yes, sir. For your information, the boy's name is Ahmed Bay." And Ahmed's mother immediately chimes in. "Our Ahmed is a good boy, sir, with a very good heart." "Yes, I know. I know also that he has loving parents." Just exactly what is your business with us, sir? My name is Master G, and I am most impressed with your son, Ahmed. Master G becomes a frequent guest at the Bay home in Cairo. Over time, Ahmed's parents come to accept him as a friend. One evening, he broaches a new subject. I believe Ahmed has a great spiritual journey ahead of him. I am seeking your permission to allow him to attend our Egyptian mystery school with other young boys, so he can learn the art of mystical insights. Ahmed's parents look at Master G incredulously. Master G, are you saying you want to take our Ahmed away from us to this school of yours? Oh, no. You cannot take away my son. Do you hear me, sir? I see this is a very emotional decision for both of you. You need time to decide about this very important matter. I implore you to give it some serious consideration. I am asking this because I see greatness in your son. He has the capacity to advance spiritual truths that our world sorely needs. I understand your reticence, but I can assure you that Ahmed will be in good hands with the masters at the temple. I will personally see to it that no harm shall come to Ahmed until he is ready to take flight. Ahmed's mother cries incessantly and nestles her head and face into the shoulder of her husband. Then her husband speaks. Mother, is not the Egyptian mystery school the temple where we took your father, Ahmed's namesake, to cure his distemper a while ago? Yes, you are right, Father. It is the same temple. They cured my father. He had been ill for 2 years. But after 2 weeks at the temple, he was cured. The masters there know things that the physicians do not. Sir, humbly ask you to give us some 24 hours to consider your request. Then you shall have our answer. Yes, this is a most momentous decision for both of you and for Ahmed. I will return to this same place at the same hour tomorrow. I will wait until then to hear your answer. He turns to leave, stops, and turns back. Let me remind you that this decision is not only for your sake, but also for humanity. The ability for all humanity to benefit from your generosity. 24 hours later, Master G returns to the home of little Ahmed Bay. He bows reverently to Ahmed's parents. He awaits their answer. Ahmed's father hesitantly speaks. If it is the will of God, Ahmed's mother and I will not stand in the way. We love our little Ahmed. He has been a true treasure for us, but we understand the importance of his mission. So be it. This was a difficult decision for you. I promise to take care of your son as if he were my own. Will report his progress in the temple as often as I can. We are honored to have our son Ahmed be recruited by such a spiritual leader as you, Master G. We thank you, sir, for your mission. We hope you are pleased. Yes. I am very pleased that you have allowed me to take your precious son to our Egyptian mystery school. I know this boy will become a great man. His destiny is to enlighten millions of people throughout the world. My sincere blessings to you both.
Tonight I'd like to talk with you about creativity, inspiration, and spirit. So it seems to me that everybody wants to be creative, but the question is why? Well, I don't think there's anything that makes people feel so generous, so joyful, so alive as creating something. Without it, our lives feel flat, boring, black and white. But when we're in the flow, it's fun and powerful energy is created. I think of creativity as a spiritual practice. Now, often when we do think of creativity, we think of great scientists, mathematicians, artists, poets, writers, inventors, innovators. But what we sometimes don't realize is that creativity is available to everyone. We might think of Pablo Picasso as creative, But what about Vladimir Putin? He is extremely good at using different ways of thinking to achieve his goals. You see, all beings are creative in large and small ways. Think about children for a minute. Picasso said, "Every child is an artist." The problem is how to remain an artist once we grow up. Because you see, children play with creativity. They enjoy the process. And they're often not terribly concerned about the end product, whether it's good or not. Of course, they always want to show it to mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, but mostly they just enjoy the process. I remember being in kindergarten and loving to do finger painting. I just loved getting my fingers in the colors and whooshing them around and seeing how it changed with one flash of my hand, I loved it. And watch a child play with clay or make a sandcastle on the beach. They just love the process. But over time, as we get older and we face criticism of our creations, a lot of it sometimes coming from inside ourselves, that inner artist can get discouraged and shut down. But creativity, it's one of the most crucial human traits. It's what innovation is all about, and it's necessary for our very survival. So let's talk a little bit about reconnecting with our creative spirit. Now, most of you know that I'm a musician, and I'd like to draw from that well to share a few quotes with you. First, Joan Baez. She says, "It seems to me that those songs that have been any good, I have nothing much to do with the writing of them. The pages have just crawled down my sleeves. The words have just crawled down my sleeve and come out on the page." Johnny Cash said, "Creative people have to be fed from the divine source." And Arlo Guthrie said, "Songwriting is like fishing in a stream. You put in your line and hope to catch something." And I don't think anyone downstream from Bob Dylan ever caught anything. I've written songs for many, many years, 30, 40 years. But there are certain songs that it almost felt like they were being dictated to me. I talk about songs that write themselves, or songs that just kind of show up. Now, this idea of songwriting, that connection of inspiration from another source, isn't limited to folk musicians. Johannes Brahms said, "Straight away the ideas flow in upon me directly from God." And Puccini said, "The mystery of this opera," he was talking about Madame Butterfly, "was dictated to me by God. I was merely instrumental in putting it on paper and communicating it to the public." And lest you think we're just going to talk about musicians, there are so many others who have made similar comments. Nikola Tesla, for example, said, "The gift of mental power comes from God, divine being. And if we concentrate our minds on that truth, we become in tune with this great power." So if all of this is true, how do we access the inspiration, the ideas, the creativity? How? We ask. We open up to an invited spiritual experience. We direct an appeal to creative power, something greater than our ego, however we wish to think of it. Now, whether you think of your higher power as divinely inspired or as an expression of your own intuition, just ask for guidance and listen deeply. We all use electricity every day. We're using it at this very moment. But do we understand how it works? Well, I certainly don't. But you don't have to understand electricity to use it. And you don't have to understand intuition, inspiration, or creativity to use it. Simply ask wholeheartedly for inspiration and insight. When you get stuck, ask for help. Who are you asking? If you believe in God, ask God. If you believe in Great Spirit, Divine Mother, a universal mind, then ask Great Spirit, Divine Mother, or universal mind. And never underestimate the might of a wholehearted appeal to the source of creativity. Ask, let go, listen, be patient, and keep working on your craft, whatever it may be, as you wait. And we'll talk about that in a minute. David Benton, an author and shaman, said, "When you take one step toward God, God moves more steps toward you than there are sands in the worlds of time." Most of humanity thinks of God as the creator, but the creator often enlists the aid of humanity in creation. So that makes us co-creators with Spirit. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin said, the French Jesuit, he said, "Perhaps there are limits to our creativity when we act alone, but when we're willing to collaborate with Spirit, there are no limits." Now, there is a bit of a paradox here because you as an individual remain fully accountable for what you create. You must learn the craft of whatever discipline you're using, whether it's music, art, dance, cooking, parenting, teaching, science, gardening. Now, how does intuition fit into this picture? Well, what if intuition is the voice of the God presence within us? That's how I think of it. And we need to be willing to let that intuition guide us. When we do, we vibrate at a higher level. We become lighter and more attuned to the energies of our soul. See, what we're really doing is creating pathways in our consciousness through which the creative forces can move and operate. We also need to kind of make space for that, make time for silence. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross said, "Learn to get in touch with the silence within yourself and know that everything in this life has a purpose." See, if there isn't any silence, if the TV's always running or the radio's always playing or whatever, there's no space for that voice to come through. So, use your intuition, trust it. Like any ability or any muscle, it gets strengthened as you use it. Hearing your inner wisdom will get stronger as you use it. Now, I want to talk for a moment about blocks to creativity. I think the most powerful block to creativity is our inner judge. You know, those negative opinions of yourself? They're not the truth. Also, we live in a kind of a left brain culture that often downplays creativity. Think of this, our kids in school take tests with questions that have only one correct answer. Where is the focus on wonder and passion and possibilities? When anyone locks away the inner child, that innate creator in a dark room and hides the key, that child becomes an adult who is merely a consumer, not a creator. We need to value creativity even more than facts and dates and numbers and money. Creativity is the imagination of our soul, our spiritual intelligence, guided by Spirit. I'd like to digress for just a moment and speak about something that really fascinates me. It's called multiple independent discoveries. You may have heard of this. It's when ideas or inventions, discoveries occur almost at the same time, nearly simultaneously from people working independently of each other, and sometimes in totally opposite parts of the world. an idea pops up in the United States and somebody in China has the same idea, and it may be a revolutionary discovery. If you were to Google multiple independent discoveries, which I did yesterday, by the way, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of examples of this going back centuries. For example, in the 1600s, the concept of calculus was discovered by Isaac Newton in England and Gottfried Leibniz in Germany, and others. The telegraph was developed in the 18th century in England and in the United States, independently of each other at about the same time. The concepts that led to the Big Bang Theory or to the jet engine or even to the development of DVD players all happened right about the same time, but these people were not working with each other. We have a lot of examples of this kind of thing happening in medicine too. Most of the ones listed when you Google it are in science, but the concept applies in other areas as well. It's as if it's an idea whose time has come, and somehow the people who bring those ideas to their feet are there at the right time. I think of that as spirit intervention. I truly do. I also think that sometimes those ideas are just sort of floating in the air, or as Arlo Guthrie said, they're floating downstream in a river, and whoever's able to pick it up and run with it is going to make it become instrumental in our lives and important in our lives. Now, you may have heard the term collective conscious. That the collective conscious is shared norms and values that every culture has, okay? But when Carl Jung came along, he's coined the phrase collective unconscious. And what he meant by this is ideas that go back further than just today's culture, today's society. In fact, he calls it ancestral memory, an experience that's common to all humankind in all times, knowledge and imagery that everyone is born with. This would account for similar thoughts in widely separated peoples, right? It's often called synchronicity, or synchro-divinity. But it's as if those ideas were just kind of floating out there. And who picks them up? Who runs with them? If we do, that creativity is harnessing a sort of a universality and making it flow through our own consciousness. And what we do with it makes all the difference in the world. So I would conclude by saying that I truly believe creativity is a spiritual practice, and I think it's our true nature, and that intuition is the conduit, and that intuition comes from God. However old you are or whatever your life path is, it's not too late. You're not too egotistical or too selfish to work on your creativity. So put down the phone, the TV remote, check out a Facebook, and allow some time for the creative process. Goethe said, whatever you think you can do or believe you can do, begin it. Action has magic, grace, and power in it. And my favorite quote of all times having to do with creativity comes from Martha Graham. Now, remember I said that those ideas might be floating around and anybody can tap into them, but what the individual does with the idea is what makes it unique, correct? Okay, Martha Graham says, there is a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium, and it will be lost. And I leave this with you with love and blessings. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Pete, for the Coptic moments. Great moments tonight, and opening up a movement for creativity, and kind of find myself in lulls occasionally too. So it's nice just to have words of wisdom from you tonight, Pam, about just stepping back and just settling in and let the thoughts and energies and inspiration flow to you instead of trying to make it happen sometimes. So thank you. And Joan is back on the beach.
I was too far away. I was trying to get away from everybody.
Joan, I love your hat. It's very creative.
It's my oldest one.
Looks good on you.
I'm a hat person.
Uh-huh. By the way, Pete, that chapter 1 is fascinating. And like I said, and I hope I didn't ruin the recording, Alan, but I unmuted myself and I said that his voice is perfect for this.
I agree. He's done a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Whose voice was that?
Fred Stella.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay. It was beautiful. Yeah, I heard that. That was great.
Yeah, it was interesting how he was able to change his voice for each character.
Yeah. I thought that might be what he was doing. Yeah.
It's the actor in him.
Yeah.
When did he start that, Pam and Pete?
What's that?
When did he start recording that?
It was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he sent us all 9 chapters a couple of days ago that we still are listening to and deciding whether we need to make any changes. Or, yeah.
Fantastic. Wow.
I'm just thrilled with Fred's voice and the way he does
great,
it.
man.
He's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it come alive. That's for sure.
Yeah. Is it too soon to ask you what your plans are for that audiobook?
Well, I don't really know. I don't know for sure, Nancy.
We're open to suggestions.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to make it available to as many people as possible. I might consult with Fred more about it. See what he's got more experience about it. His wife is an actress, so I asked him about how to
right. Yeah, he might have an idea of what he feels the value of this is, and I know you spent a lot of time on it. Very good writing, by the way.
Pam helped me too, by the way. I give credit.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, but it's really really nice. I'm looking forward to hearing all of the chapters.
It's really good, man.
Yeah, you both did a beautiful job. We're just honored to have this shot of wisdom.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Absolutely magnificent.
I think it's a good tool for getting people interested in knowing who Ahmed Bay was, and I think it's we're always looking for ways to expand our audience. I think that might be a good tool.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, I know that Pete is anxious to work with the Coptic Center in any way that they want to use that to inform people and interest them, as you said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say a few minutes ago that if something is out in the consciousness and nobody picks it up, that it's lost, it's gone?
Well, what I'm saying is that your particular expression of that concept is lost and gone. Somebody else might pick it up and run with it and do something totally different with the idea.
Oh, okay.
But your own expression of it will be lost. Yeah, that's what Martha.
Okay. I was thinking it maybe if it was like the telephone, that would mean that you'd have to wait another 100 years before you had somebody pick up on the telephone. Yeah. Good.
When you were talking about that, Pam, I got the visualization, when you said that somebody discovered something in the US and in Germany. And my mind went to the visualization of the lottery. And you know how the little balls come down and they fall in the slots?
Yeah.
And so, if the universe has got all these ideas, they're already there waiting for somebody to roll with it, right? So these balls come down and they fall in the slots. And maybe this person and this person pick up, one of those balls.
Yeah.
And just interesting.
It's really interesting because if you have, let's say, 4 slots, 4 different people might be picking up something.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. I like that image because I think it's accurate. Yeah. I can't tell you.
Well, there is a debate on who invented the telegraph first.
Yeah.
I think there's a debate on who invented the telephone or the telegraph first. Yeah. So.
Well, I think the airplane was the same thing. When the Wright brothers discovered it here, it was also being built over in Europe.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many times I've had an idea for a song that I wanted to write. Something would occur to me, or somebody would say something. I think, oh, that would make a great song. I'll have to see what I can come up with. And then I hadn't done anything with it. And maybe a week later, I will hear somebody has written a song about that very idea. It was like, oh, why didn't I jump on that first?
Yeah.
Well, with Ahmed Bay's book, the book about, it's a true story. It's not fiction. It's a biography. It seems to me that that's something that National Public Radio would be interested in. But I think that the Coptics ought to have it available through their website. I don't know if it should be a pay to read or if it should be free to read. But I think when I read the book, the regular book, not an audiobook, that was what really got me kind of hooked on what the Coptics are about. And I think that that's a really good introduction to people who have not had any contact with the organization before. If there could be advertising to get people to come to your website, and then they discover everything else that's going on. But how you get
like you have
media, we have Ellen here, who's a marketing person.
Send it to the board. Pete could
put it in the video links. Yeah, links on the history of Ahmed Bay or something.
Yeah, each chapter, put a different chapter each week. That people can follow the story of Ahmed Bay.
This belongs to Pete.
But you need some kind of hook to get them to come to that.
Yeah.
Well, kind of going back into the concept of getting ideas from spirit, I can say that sometimes the best ideas I have all day are the ones I wake up with in the morning. It's like I'll wake up in the morning and there's already an idea fully formed in my mind. And it's like, okay, where's the pen and paper? I got to write this down. And a lot of times that's the best idea I have all day.
And
when you get the 6 numbers for the lottery, write them down quick.
Yeah, on Shark Tank this week, there was a gal who had an idea that she dreamt. And when she woke up, she created it. And on Shark Tank, they were saying that this is the best idea that they had ever had. It's a covering to put over your glass. I forget what they called it. When you're out drinking, she said college women have had people drop drugs into their glasses and then they find themselves molested or other things happening that they didn't realize were happening. And if they had a little cover to put over their glass, nobody could just drop something into it. Somebody would see somebody removing this covering to put something in if they got up to go to the restroom. And so they immediately, one of the sharks said, I want to buy into this. I think it's a very well formulated idea, and it's something that's socially needed right now. This is an area of a problem this will address. And so I thought it, but she said the whole idea came to me in my sleep. When I woke up, I knew exactly what I needed to do because she had a friend who had a problem.
Mhm.
It came to her in her sleep. So
There's a reason for that. And that is there are 3 times when the for each person, so when the veil between this world and the spirit world is the thinnest. And one is in that kind of dreamlike state when we first wake up,
Go to sleep.
that kind of dreamlike state when we're first going to sleep, and also at like between 3 and 4 a.m.
mm,
There's just it's like our barriers come down, you know, and so we're more accessible to spirit.
mhm.
That's why I can't sleep that time.
Yeah.
I guess I'm supposed to stay awake and think of something bright.
Yeah.
That's why I do most of our writing that time in the morning, early morning.
He'll get up at
Do it.
4 in the morning and write
Yep.
for an hour, and
There
then
you go.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. When John first got involved in numerology, and you know, he loved it, and he would bound out of bed all different times of the night because he had to go and work this formula out.
Ah,
And you know,
I know.
do you remember that?
I remember it well.
Well, we do have something for the closing. This is a John request. Okay. So, go ahead with that, Alan.
Yep, I will get that going here. There's that. Here we go.
Every time it rains, pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven? You'll find your fortunes falling all over the town. Be sure that your umbrella is upside down. Trade them for a package of sunshine and flowers. If you want the things you love, you must have showers. So when you hear it thunder, don't run under a tree. There'll be pennies from heaven for you and me. Trade them for a package of sunshine and flowers. If you want the things you love, you've got to have showers. So when you hear it thunder, don't run under that tree. There'll be pennies from heaven for you and me. Lots of pennies from heaven for you and
Hey,
me.
Frank, that was terrific.
Yeah, awesome.
So, Pam, is that you on the keyboard?
Oh, I wish it were. We have a dear friend who played the piano for almost all of my CDs and for Pete on this, but she left the earth plane Christmas Eve last year. So we miss her dearly. But there's something kind of neat about creativity in that regard, that her creative efforts, and she did incredible arrangements and so forth, she remain, you know. It's still here for us to enjoy and appreciate. So
I'm hosting an open mic in Muskegon next month, and the theme is storms. You're more than welcome to come sing that.
That'd be perfect.
Great. Thanks, Anna.
April 20th.
Okay, man. Good. I'll talk with my manager here.
Better check with your agent too, Pete.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's all we have for tonight. Any other comments or questions, observations?
That was a wonderful presentation. Phenomenal.
Thank
We
you.
enjoyed it, both of you.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, your point about getting away from the noise, getting away from the
Yeah.
TV and the radio and the Facebook and all that other stuff, that really is a major thing that we need to get back to, because our modern culture has filled our brains with so much noise that it's hard to hear the voice of spirit anymore.
Absolutely right.
That's why it's so important to meditate.
Yep.
Yeah, and also, a lot of people say that they get their best ideas when they're taking a shower, or they're driving long distance, or,
I'll tell you what happens to me.
it doesn't require a lot of mental activity to free up that brain for inspiration. Yeah.
Remember, I told you, I think at one point when I was at the office, and I would have this dilemma, I would have this problem, and I there's a lot of clutter going on in the background at the office. And so I would go into the women's restroom and go into a stall and just sit. And, with it being quiet, it wasn't long before I got the answer.
There you go.
So, yeah, that was my little place of refuge.
Why not?
When I was working and the weather was nice, we had an arboretum as part of the grounds. I worked for Scott's Miracle Grow, and I would go out on my lunch hour and walk in the arboretum. And when I came back, I usually had the answer to my problem that I had. Just being in nature, where Joan is there at the beach, that's a good place to get
Sure is.
inspiration.